for Monday, April 20th, 2015. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Present.
Councilmember Bruno.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Drosha.
Here.
Councilmember Ferris.
Here.
Councilmember Mulvaney.
Here.
Mayor Waltz. We have a quorum.
Thank you. For the record, Mayor Waltz provided notice that he would not be here this evening due to a death in his family. I would ask all of us to please keep him and all of his family in your thoughts and prayers. Now I'd ask that we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for the blessings of life, liberty, and passion. And as we gather here this evening, we ask your divine providence on our deliberation, that all of our actions be for the betterment of others and the betterment of our community. We also ask your blessing on the friends and family, especially the children of Linda McDonald. We ask for comfort and strength during this time.
Agenda item number 4 is announcements. Are there any council members who have any announcements or matters of interest that they would like to share at this time? Councilmember Mulvaney.
I'd like to announce and congratulate Mr. Lutz, who received the Michigan Aviation Hall of Fame honors at Kalamazoo on Saturday. So we're proud of you, Ernie.
Thank you. Councilmember Ferris.
I'd like to invite everyone to the Arbor Day celebration, which is this Friday at 12 o'clock at the Maple Grove Cemetery. Dennis O'Brien is the honoree. It's at noon. Everybody's welcome. And also, you can do a double duty. At 1 o'clock, you can go and do the ribbon cutting for Dart Bank's 90th anniversary at 1 o'clock. Thank you. And don't forget, here we go, the firefighters, pancake breakfast and rummage sale Saturday, the 2nd of May in Spring Fling. And one more thing, if you'll notice, here we are. On Thursday is the blood drive at St. James, 63 years and still going. Every 8 weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Ferris. Any other announcements at this time? Yes, thank you. Councilmember Drosha reminded me to announce that there will be a special conclusion to Spring Fling on Saturday, May 2nd. We are hosting what is being called the Mason Spring Swing Jazz Festival. This will be held at Rayner Park on that Saturday from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m., and there will be 3 live performances from 3 different groups: the Lansing Community College Jazz Band, which I'm privileged to be a part of, as well as the Mason High School Jazz Band, and the feature performance will be from the Twilight Memories Big Band. So come on out to Rayner Park after you're done shopping in downtown Mason and bring a blanket, bring a lawn chair, and word tells me that there's even a great place across the street to get some ice cream and some food. So it should be a fun time. Any other announcements? Wonderful. Our next agenda item is people from the floor. This is the part of our meeting where we accept comments from the public. I would like to note that we do have a public hearing scheduled tonight, and so if your comments are related to that particular item, we respectfully ask that you reserve your comments for that portion of our agenda. However, if anyone in the audience wishes to speak on any matter other than the public hearing to come before the council, we invite you to come to the podium at this time to give your comments. Please share your name and address, and we will give you 3 minutes to speak. Welcome.
Rita Vogel, 424 South Jefferson Street here in Mason. First, I'd like to thank the council on their really great work with the budget this year and making that on record. First item is trash cans. I am hopeful that with the new DPW Director, Ken Baker, there will be added attention to detail. With overflowing garbage cans being a great sign of downtown commerce, I feel we need more frequent receptacle pickup. I think it also important when embracing our community as a walking community, we realize that animals void on these receptacles and a few good power washings, especially in warm summer months, will greatly benefit us all in the downtown historic district. I'm unaware of what's on the agenda.
Well, if there's anything you'd like to share with the council, we'll gladly hear it. If not, we thank you for your comments.
For Good Bites, I am in support of Good Bites food truck moving their location onto the city streets of Mason. Jonathan Frazier, the owner of Good Bites, has worked very well with Brian Rasdale, owner and award winner of Bad Brewing Beers, both providing the Mason is a destination place for organic, community-sourced gourmet food and great beer. A food truck is not a lucrative business. When considering a fee, I ask you sit down and speak with Jonathan to increase your knowledge base and learn from one another. Do research. Look at other communities. Are these tourist towns, large cities, or towns comparable to our own? Being that this is a new territory for our city council and a new ordinance, may I also request a trial basis or pilot program with food trucks move pending other downtown business owners' input, respectfully, and revisit this in a year. We all care about our community and its economic growth. That being said, Good Bites has been highlighted in City Pulse and made the top of the town in various arenas to be voted on, including, but not limited to, Best Food Truck and Best Gourmet Food. I'm sure we all wish them luck this year in winning. If at the end of the day, no one is happy, then that means a compromise has been made. All good things, all good concerns, all good bites. Thanks.
Thank you, Rita. Are there any other individuals that wish to speak during People from the Floor? If not, we'll move on to the next item under our agenda. Agenda item number 6 is presentations. And tonight we have a special presentation from Chief of Police, John Stressman. And I now invite him to come forward for the purposes of an introduction.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, city administration, ladies and gentlemen in the audience. My name is John Stressman. I'm the Chief of Police of the City of Mason. And I'm pleased tonight to bring to you our newest police officer for the City of Mason, Officer Joseph Fairbotham. Joe started work in Mason here a week ago. It was kind of a short notice thing. We knew Joe had been an applicant the last time around and done well on his in the pre-employment process. And when Officer Murdoch resigned to go to Ann Arbor just recently, kind of took us by surprise. Joe was available. We talked him in away from his current employer, the state of Michigan, and I'm pleased to say that he's with us now. A little bit of a background on Joe. He served as a patrol officer in both Leslie and in Stockbridge, I think a total of 10 years, 7 police departments, and was most recently employed by the state of Michigan Department of Human Services, Children's Protective Services as an abuse and neglect investigator. Joe is a graduate of Ferris State University, where he earned his bachelor's degree and Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standard license, graduating with a 3.7 GPA. Joe attended high school in Leslie, Michigan, where he was a member of the National Honor Society. Now, if you would, please welcome Joe Fairbotham to Mason.
Thank you.
Joe's a little shy.
I was going to say, would you like to say a few words? If not, council members, I'd like if you join me at the podium. Let's formally greet and welcome Officer Fairbotham to the city.
fashion police, if you'll notice, Joe was flashing one of our latest 150 badge to celebrate the sesquicentennial. Thank you.
Yes, but did he bag for barrels?
If you have no questions, I'll just close with another comment. We still are in pre-employment process. We're expecting at least one vacancy this fall. And we're right now just in the process of receiving the applications. We're going to close that out the end of May and possibly start the interview process after that. Okay.
Great. Are there any questions for the Chief or for Officer Fairbotham? Thank you very much, Chief, and welcome again. The next item on our agenda tonight is a public hearing. The Council will now convene a public hearing regarding a proposed grant application for approximately $188,800 to the Michigan State Housing Development Authority's Community Development Block Grant Rental Rehabilitation Program. So I'm now going to formally open the public hearing. And before we ask members of the public to come forward, I'd like to recognize Mr. Colburn to state some facts for the record.
Honorable Mayor and Council members, we are working with this particular grant units 37 through 40 in regard to what we've done in recent years for housing rehabilitation. The vast majority of those are in the downtown loft areas, and in this particular case, 368 South Jefferson Street. This particular application is for 4 units, 2 on the second floor and 2 on the third floor of 368 South Jefferson, also known as the Vault Deli. And we're pleased to have the owners here as well, as Scott and Jamie Robinson are both here in the audience. This is a little bit unique. Most of the units that we've done in the past in the loft area are 1-bedroom units. 2 of these are 2-bedroom units and 2 bath, whereas 2 are 1-bedroom, 1 bath. And so we're looking forward to that in terms of a little more versatility in the downtown area. The grant request is for $188,800, and we would be utilizing Revitalize LLC, Bruce Johnston and his staff. Shanda Johnston is here this evening, and she's representing Revitalize and is available also in regard to any questions you may have. Now, Revitalize is our third-party administrator, which is required by the state of Michigan in regard to cities, the smaller cities, whereas the larger cities can have their own staff or utilize consultants. Ms. Johnston.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Usually I know you're not used to seeing me as the mouthpiece, and it's probably a relief to most of you. I don't talk quite as much as Bruce. But I am the better half of Revitalize LLC. I'm the I-T crosser, so I'm not normally the one who speaks to everyone. But Marty, you did a great job. You stole most of my thunder in what I was going to say about the project. For most of you, you probably have already dealt a lot with the downtown rental rehab program. Scott and Jamie are no strangers to the process, and we're happy to be working with them and with the city to button up. I think this is the last thing they need to do for their building. They've remodeled the vault underneath and made the deli, and they've done some facade work already, so we're on to the last part of the project to put the rental rehab units on top. Like Marty said, the grant, they will cover the 4 units, and 2-bedroom units are not normal. The first ones we did were for above the shopping guide building, and the cool bat cave we call for the parking, because that's not normal parking here in the downtown areas. But so Scott and Jamie are a little bit rookies with the 2-bedroom process as well. That's going to be great. We're excited to have more 2-bedrooms. Brings more people down, and more people spend more money. So, Scott and Jamie, anything you want to say?
Thanks for the opportunity, and
Yes, please.
you didn't avoid this. I really did want to take the time to acknowledge the City of Mason and all of you for bringing this program to the owners of the buildings in downtown Mason. When we opened bestsellers 17 years ago in the little place on Maple Street, Fiedler Building. The day we opened was the day that dancers said they were going to close their business, the same day. And I looked at Scott and said, we're done. There's no reason to come to Mason anymore unless you want to go to Keens. The whole Jefferson Street was pretty well quiet, and there was not a lot of reason. So to see the 17 years, to have the apartments and the people, and to have people crying that there's no parking spaces, yay, yay, yay. I'm really excited, and thank you also for working with Bruce Johnson and his new revitalization company. It brings a lot to our city and in his own hometown, too. So thanks.
Thank you. Is there anything else, Mr. Colburn, that you would like stated into the record?
Surely. Mr. Johnston and I have been working on putting the input into the state data system, the unit, our project profile, and setting up the city in terms of a lot of the data and begin work that we have to do. It's a little tedious, but necessary. The grant, again, is for $188,800. It does pledge the city in terms of administering and backing those grants as we have in the past with the most recently the projects at 124 and 140 East Ash. So on that note, we're looking forward to a successful project.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Colburn. This is a public hearing. The public hearing is open. If there are any individuals in our audience that would like to speak to this item, please come forward to the podium at this time. Give us your name and address, and we'll allow you 3 minutes to speak on the subject at hand. Okay. If there are no individuals that desire to speak, I'll give you a second chance. Okay, I will close the public hearing. Moving on, in conjunction with the previously held public hearing, the agenda also calls for the consideration of Resolution 2015-16, which authorizes the City of Mason to apply for the MSHDA Rental Rehabilitation Grant for 368 South Jefferson Street through the CDBG program. I will now entertain any motions concerning the proposed resolution.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Drosha.
I move that we consider Resolution 2015-16 as read.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that we consider Resolution number 2015-16 as having been read into the record. Is there any discussion regarding this motion? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion to consider Resolution 2015-16 as having been read into the record, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those in opposition to the motion shall signify by saying nay. Hearing none, in the opinion of the chair, the ayes are in the majority and the motion is carried. Madam Clerk, would you please report the resolution?
City Council Resolution number 2015-16, authorizing the City of Mason to apply to the Michigan State Housing Development Authority Rental Rehabilitation Grant for 368 South Jefferson Street, Mason, Michigan, through the Community Development Block Grant Program, introduced by Bruno, second by Clark.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Resolution 2015-16 is now properly before the Council for final adoption. Is there any discussion regarding this resolution? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor of adopting Resolution 2015-16 shall signify by saying aye. Aye. Those in opposition shall signify by saying nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes are in the majority and the resolution is adopted. Thank you very much to all those who participated in the public hearing this evening. The next item on our agenda this evening is the consent agenda, which consists of 4 items: the approval of the minutes from April 6, 2015, approval of the bills in the amount of $21,395.64, a motion to approve street closures and the use of the right-of-way for the Mason Area Chamber of Commerce annual events, and finally, a motion to approve the use of the public right-of-way for the Mason Lions Club White Cane Drive on April 24th and April 25th, 2015. Are there any council members that would like to add or remove items on the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Councilmember Drosha.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. In accordance with our rules of procedure, this motion is not debatable, and so I will now call the question. All those in favor of adopting the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those in opposition shall signify by saying no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes are in the majority, and the consent agenda is approved. Moving on to regular business. Tonight we have 3 items. Agenda item 9A is the introduction and first reading of Ordinance Number 199, an ordinance to amend the use district map. Before we take action on this item, I'm going to ask Mr. Colburn or Mr. Haywood to provide some insight into this matter. Mr. Colburn.
I'd like to introduce Mr. David Haywood. He's our Zoning and Development Director working with the Planning Commission. He's worked through this and then brought it to the council for your review.
Good evening. David Haywood, Zoning and Development Director for the City of Mason. Before you is a recommendation from the Planning Commission to rezone 1.09 acres of land from Office 01 to C1 Central Business, Central Commercial. This parcel involves the Dart Bank property immediately across the street here, across West Ash Street. What they're looking to do is rezone the property from office to commercial to alleviate their restrictions from the office zoning district, which has multiple setback and landscaping standards, etc. Their feeling is that being located in the downtown area office district presents some challenges with regard to setbacks for property lines and landscaping standards. By rezoning to the C1 commercial, central commercial district, kind of loosens those regulations and allows them some more flexibility, not unlike the rest of the businesses that you see downtown. So with that, they're requesting that the property be rezoned to C1, Central Commercial. As you have a recommendation from the Planning Commission that highlights that the request is consistent with the city's master plan and therefore recommending approval. So with that, you have our recommendation from the Planning Commission, and I will take any questions or comments you have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Haywood. Council members, any questions for Mr. Haywood or Mr. Colburn? Okay. Mr. Colburn, do you have anything to add? Okay, thank you. At this point, I'll entertain any motions concerning the proposed ordinance.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Councilmember Drosha.
I move to introduce ordinance number 199 and consider it read for the first time.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that ordinance number 199 be introduced and read for the first time. Is there any discussion on the motion? I will simply add, as the liaison to the Planning Commission, that we also held a public hearing regarding this rezoning, and we had a discussion regarding the matter, and the resolution that is before you from the Planning Commission was unanimously approved. So Planning Commission did its due diligence on this item, and now it's at the council level. Any other discussion regarding the proposed ordinance for first reading and introduction? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion to introduce and consider ordinance number 199 as having been read into the record for the first time signify by saying aye. Aye. Those in opposition to the motion shall signify by saying no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes are in the majority and the motion carries. The next item on our agenda this evening is item 9B. This is consideration of resolution number 2015-17, authorization to award the reconstruction of the alley behind 124 and 140 East Ash Street. Before the council takes action on this item, I would like to ask Mr. Colburn to provide an overview. Mr. Colburn.
Honorable Mayor and council members, as you're aware, there was a failure on the water and sanitary in the alleyway behind 124 and 140 East Ash Street. At this time, I'm going to introduce Mr. Ken Baker, our DPW director, who worked with the city engineer's office, city clerk's office, and my own in regard to the process followed for the funding and the bid for this process.
Good evening. My name is Ken Baker, DPW Director of Public Works. And tonight what I bring in front of you is a resolution requesting approval for us to award the work for the sewer and storm sewer replacement for the alley behind 124-140 East Ash. We went out for public bid, and there was 5 bidders for the project. The lowest 3 bidders are in the resolution that we gave to you. And our recommendation is to go with the lowest bidder, which is Marlon Construction. They're out of Mason. They've done good work for us in the past. No problem making this recommendation to you. And if you got questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Any questions for Mr. Colburn or Mr. Baker at this time? Okay. Mr. Colburn, did you have anything to add?
I'm just going to say we did take a look at the change order process, but with the bid, we did gain a better price of, it was almost $20,000?
It was around $10,000.
I'd like to ask one question just as a point of clarity for the council and the public. This particular reconstruction is not budgeted in the current year. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is more of an emergency circumstance in which the storm drain has totally collapsed, and there's faults with the sanitary line.
Any other questions for staff at this point? Thank you, Mr. Baker. I would now entertain any motions regarding the proposed resolution.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Councilmember Drosha.
I move that we consider Resolution 2015-17 as read.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that we consider Resolution 2015-17 as having been read into the record. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion to consider Resolution 2015-17 as having been read into the record, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those in opposition to the motion say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes are in the majority and the motion carries. Madam Clerk, would you please report the resolution?
City Council Resolution Number 2015-17, authorization to award the reconstruction of alley behind 124-140 East Ash Street, which includes the replacement of the storm and sanitary sewers. Introduced by Clark, second by Bruno.
Thank you. Resolution 2015-17 is now properly before the council for final adoption. Is there any discussion regarding the resolution? If not, I will call the question on final adoption. All those in favor of adopting Resolution 2015-17, please signify by saying aye. 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 Those in opposition, please say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes are in the majority and the resolution is adopted. The next item on tonight's agenda is item 9C. A motion. This is a motion to request the occupation of the city right-of-way. Before we discuss or take action on this item, I would like to ask Mr. Colburn and I believe Mrs. Swertnevich to provide some insight into this matter.
Surely, thank you. There has been a request by Good Bites and the manager, Nicole Austin, who is here this evening, to utilize and to move the food truck into the downtown parking space along South Jefferson in front of Bad Brewing. This is an area in which they already serviced in regard to providing food services on private property and had been reviewed by the Zoning and Development Department at that time, which is over a year ago now, I believe, and met all the requirements of being able to service on private property. So at this point, they are in compliance with the codes of the City of Mason. This is a specific request in terms of the use of the right-of-way and came to the city. Now, the process we now follow with events is not unlike with the Zoning and Development Department, in which there's a distribution to the departments. Things are changing and evolving in regard to some of the different types of uses of land use in the area, and that goes with also right-of-way permits. And so it went to the city clerk's office, in which she worked on a distribution. At this point, I'll turn it over to Ms. Schwarzenevich, in which she can explain the process and the results.
As shown in your packet, it went to Sergeant Ed Hude and Fire Chief Carrie Minshaw and myself. Speaking for myself, we do not have any code to regulate or address this type of use. For them to, and basically the only question before council is the use of the right-of-way. And that's an area that has 2-hour parking. We have been talking about and looking into the food truck business in order to, begin to compile an ordinance for that use. And along with that, it would probably be specific locations that would be recommended and would very likely not be a parking spot downtown. So that was pretty much what I based my recommendation on, is just the code, in that we need to, we need to address that. That's a new use for us, and so.
Great, thank you. Mr. Colburn, do you or any other city staff have additional items to add?
We've provided to you through the National League of Cities and Towns some information, a research paper basically, to give you some introspection of what is typically reviewed with this type of ordinance. This includes not only the economic development side, but some of the public safety side, the public health issues such as trash receptacles and cleanliness. So the white paper tends to give you an overview of some of the things to take into consideration when you are looking at the creation of an ordinance. There's also another aspect with it with carts. It's coincidental, but what they use as an example is Ann Arbor for carts. Ms. Schwarzenevich is correct. There's quite a variety in terms of what is utilized out there, but really this is somewhat of a fairly new phenomenon in terms of looking at ordinances. We really started hearing about this just in very recent years. And as you know, just a few months ago, we had a brief discussion in regard to us addressing this in the not-too-distant future. So at this point, you have in here the staff review, an example of an ordinance, and a white paper to give you an overview of the overall issues to take into consideration. Really, the question at hand to the City Council is the right-of-way request in regard to if it's appropriate to extend beyond 2 hours the parking. I know one of the things from the discussions that the staff had that they struggled with was that the request was maybe not specific enough. It estimated that there would be a use of about three times a week, and possibly the applicant could give more clarification in that area. But I think this is just part of the development of the discussion that needs to go on. Thank you.
Okay, at this point I see that Ms. Austin is present. Is there any objection from council members to allowing Ms. Austin to speak, even though this is not a public hearing? If not, Ms. Austin, please share with us some of your thoughts on this matter.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We are a growing business in Mason, and there has been some argument with regard to property tax and the fact that we don't pay property tax. Currently, we don't own any property in downtown Mason, and we would like to change that. And this is the next logical step for us to expose our business to the community and kind of get our name out there, build our reputation so that we are able to purchase a building and get our business started in downtown Mason in an actual brick and mortar. It seems that there is some language in the peddler's license currently. It's Article 2, Section 1033, Number 6, It lists an exception that a concessionaire's license can be granted by resolution of the council within appropriate public rights of way. And so we're requesting that you'll kind of look into that and allow us to do that. There are a great number of benefits to allowing small businesses to operate in downtown. I'm sure you all know this. For every $100 that gets spent at a local business, 68 of those dollars go directly back into the community. If it's a nationally owned chain or a locally owned chain, only 43 of those dollars. And if it's just a national chain, almost none of that money stays in your community. So we source a lot of our products from local farmers. Those farmers source from local feed stores. We purchase a lot of products from Daryl's Market. We buy local propane. So a lot of the business that we do is directly benefiting the community because the money is staying in Mason, which is something that I know is important. It's also an attractor. It can increase your property values downtown. If you have a vibrant, lively local downtown business or local downtown shops, it will draw people in, and it puts Mason on the map. It's a chance for Mason to have increased revenue, not only at our business, but also businesses throughout the rest of downtown. So we would ask that you would please consider this so that we can stay in Mason.
Thank you, Ms. Austin. Council members, are there any questions for Ms. Austin at this time? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Bruno, you recognized.
As obviously we probably cannot make a decision or might not make a decision on this evening, has any thought to assist people in realizing you are where you are, of utilizing the same as many of our other downtown businesses have, of putting up the A-frame sign on the sidewalk with at least an arrow pointing toward you that would assist in the meantime of possibly aiding you somewhat to get a little more recognition until maybe this issue is totally resolved?
We actually have been in operation since May 31st of last year, and unless there is rain, there is an A-frame sign in front of Bad Brewing showing people that the food truck is in operation.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ms. Austin? Okay, thank you.
Thanks again.
Given that staff started out the presentation, I would like to also ask if any council members have questions of staff at this time before we delve into the matter further. Okay, I have a question or two that I'd like to direct to either Mr. Colburn or to our city attorney. The first is procedural. Regarding the request that we received, this is, I believe, the first time that the city has received such a request. Is a simple motion sufficient, or would we actually need a resolution to allow occupation of the right-of-way?
I'll jump on that. I better. I'll answer that. I would think that you would need a resolution. I mean, there currently, I assume, is a traffic order in place setting out the hours for the parking at the various locations. For this council to make that change, I think a simple motion would not be sufficient. Motions normally just deal with procedures that are of limited nature. The resolution, while not an ordinance, is a more formal expression of the desires of the council, and I think you would need a resolution for that.
Okay, thank you. And also, Ms. Austin mentioned that there was a provision in the peddler's license that could potentially allow for this, and I was unaware of the provision. I did not know if either Mr. Colburn or Mr. Hitch were aware of the provision that was cited as well. Oh.
Yes, I'm very familiar with Chapter 10. That provision is to just exactly what we're doing tonight, that it goes before council. We cannot allow anyone to use the right-of-way without your permission. Usually what that was originally for is ice cream trucks, because we would always permit ice cream trucks, and they pull over and sit in the right-of-way. And that was the intent of that.
So technically, could this is probably stretching the scenario a little bit, but could a food truck per se park in the traditional parking for 2 hours, and at that time drive down the block, come back and park again? Would that technically be legal?
My feeling on that is that we are not set up to regulate that kind of business. So it's
I know it's a sticky.
they've even said themselves that once they start their business, it's very dangerous for them to move that vehicle. And as the food truck business goes, all the research that we've done in this short time, and is in your packet tonight, there are allowed locations, and it's not a parking space in our downtown. For reasons of, as we've heard tonight, we're short on parking, and that's another reason that we have 2 hours. There is no, I am in favor of this business and would like to see that, and I'm glad that they're operating. But we need, that's why we have those ordinances, and if you were able to look at anything in your packet regarding those, it's quite involved. There's quite a lot to consider in order to regulate such a business. Setting precedents then sets us up for to have to consider this before we're prepared and ready to do that, to regulate it. The good news is that they're operating right now, but on the other hand, it's a new business, it's a new trend, and we need to catch up and get that ordinance written.
Great. Any other questions for city staff? I'm sorry. Mr. Hitch?
If I just may remark, as it relates to this issue of being permitted under the peddler's ordinance, the example cited by the city clerk obviously envisions something in which the ice cream truck would stay there for a short period of time. A truck is able to move, obey the traffic laws, not have a problem in terms of making frequent stops, and it was not normally intended that they would be in one particular, truck would be in one particular location for a very extended period of time. And so that would be more of what one would think of as a peddler going from house to house or from neighborhood to neighborhood. That would be why I think that would have been included in the ordinance, and why, at least in my discussions with the city manager, this business, which I think a lot of people have a support for, is significantly different from that sort of a mobile operation that's going from neighborhood to neighborhood, not taking up any particular spot in the public right-of-way for any period of time.
Thank you, Mr. Hitch. Council members, do you have any general comments on the matter this evening?
Yes.
Councilmember Drosha.
I need about 5 minutes to collect it all.
Oh.
May I request a recess, please?
Is there a second for a motion to recess?
Sure, for discussion. I second that.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion to take a 5-minute recess? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition say no.
No.
No. Can I see by show of hands the members that voted in support of the motion? Councilmember Drosha and Ferris. And those in opposition? Councilmember Mulvaney, Clark, Bruno, and Brown. The motion fails. Are there additional comments at this time?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris.
I would be much more comfortable if we had a little more time to discuss the ramifications of this whole procedure so that we put everyone on a level playing field, so that we have a workable and reasonable ordinance for anyone of any persuasion so that we have time to do this in the right way instead of saying, yeah, sure, or nope. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Councilmember Clark was indicating he wanted to speak.
Councilmember Drosha, I was gonna make a comment and try to give him his 5 minutes. He's prepared. By all means, go right ahead.
Okay, Councilmember Drosha, you're recognized.
I think we need to address the ordinance issue, but I think that takes too long. In this instance, so I would be in favor of allowing them to use the right-of-way in front of Bab Brewing, and as such, at an appropriate time, I have quickly written a resolution to be introduced.
Okay.
I went from a motion because I was told a motion's not strong enough. I had to quickly switch my motion to a resolution.
From a procedural standpoint, either to our city attorney or to our city clerk, should a resolution be presented at a later meeting when it can be included in the packet and printed, or can we accept a resolution at the present meeting that Councilmember Drosha is requesting?
As a general proposition, resolutions wind up on the agenda. I don't want to make this too difficult. Normally, to amend an agenda, you normally need the full body. So, again, as a general rule, you can't amend the agenda. Now, having said that, now I think about this. This is scheduled as an agenda item. So, having thought this out, having said that, you can have a resolution. You don't need to amend the agenda. I mean, it was an agenda item to consider this. So, whether it's a motion or a resolution, you can do that.
Okay. My feeling or ruling as the chair then is if that Councilmember Drosha desires to submit a resolution, then by the same procedure of any other resolution, it would need to have a signatory as the seconder and then a motion to consider the resolution read. So if you would like to circulate that, you can do so. Councilmember, you'd have to read it into the record in full. Okay.
Now you know why I wanted 5 minutes.
Sure.
There you go, John.
All right. I need a second.
So,
I'll second any whereas. You don't need any whereas in my vote.
Okay.
okay.
Councilmember
Bruno seconds. So then I would ask you to submit the resolution to the clerk, who will read it.
Oh, my goodness.
But we know the motion is introduced, or the resolution is introduced by Councilmember Drosha and seconded by Councilmember Bruno. And I believe it would be Resolution 2015-18.
Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem.
Ferris. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Councilmember, or Madam Clerk.
Maybe we could let Councilmember Drosha read it.
Okay.
It might be a better idea.
Okay. Councilmember Ferris, did you have a comment?
Yes, my comment is this. The chief of police, the fire chief, and the city clerk are all three against doing it at this time. Thank you. I just wanted to read that into the record.
Councilmember Drosha, would you like to introduce your resolution before the council?
Yes, I will.
You have the floor.
Thank you.
Got it all straight.
Number 18. 2015-18.
Supersedes the current traffic.
Temporarily supersede.
Right.
And at the specific location, if you put the address in, so that it's clear.
Right.
Which is what? 440?
Thank you.
440 South Jefferson.
I'm not great at working on the fly. So, here's what I've come up with. Whereas Good Bites Food Truck opened for business on May 31st, 2014, and has been under a peddler's license since their opening. And whereas Good Bites utilizes local farmers and local food sources. And whereas placemaking is important to the City of Mason and Good Bites Truck does create placemaking, this resolution temporarily supersedes the current traffic order at 440 South Jefferson. Therefore, let it be resolved to direct administration to draft and enter into an agreement to allow Good Bites Truck to park in front of Bad Brewing in the right-of-way up to 6 days per week from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. This agreement is to be with Good Bites only. This agreement shall expire upon the completion of a City of Mason mobile food vending ordinance or upon violation of any conditions contained in the agreement.
Thank you. The motion has been read. Is it seconded?
Just a clarification, I thought we were talking 3 days, not the 6 you mentioned.
I'll retract the 6 and go to 3 because that is what they suggested. I was trying to give them more leeway.
If we have 3, I will definitely support it so we can get it on the floor.
3 it is.
Madam Clerk, did you want to interject?
Just to interject, I don't believe that we need a contract. Our current ordinance just says that they need to get permission from City Council.
Shall I adjust my resolution, amend it? I would like to amend my resolution.
Sure.
So that it reads...
As the author, you can just state how you wish it to be presented to the council.
I would like it so that we give permission to Good Bites Truck to park in the right-of-way in front of Bad Brewing Company up to 3 days per week from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay. Can you please submit your resolution? I'll pass it to the clerk. Madam Clerk, do you have enough to go on for the record to indicate the wishes of this resolution?
Yes, I do, and I have his phone number.
And my email address, if I'd ever check it.
Okay, Councilmember Josha has introduced Resolution 2015-18. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Bruno seconds the resolution. It has been read into the record, and so now it is on the floor for discussion. Councilmembers, any discussion on the matter?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Clark.
I think we're walking a slippery slope here from the standpoint of entering into this resolution without thinking it all the way through. We're allowing to park in the sidewalk. Anybody else that does business in the city right-of-way has to also provide insurance to hold the city harmless. There are other things that we have not considered in this resolution. We're just simply saying, yep, go ahead. And I'm concerned, too, about going about this request in this manner from the standpoint that if, who knows, Joe's sausage truck shows up tomorrow, gets a peddler's permit, and comes in and says, well, I want to park in front of Best Sellers. Are you going to tell him no?
Yes, I am. Because this is with
Councilmember Josha, Councilmember
Well,
Clark.
I think that you'd open yourselves up for a whole bunch of trouble if you do that. And more importantly, at this juncture, I think that not only do we need to consider the situation of Good Bites, but we also need to consider the situation of the downtown businesses. This is going to be located within close proximity of an established brick-and-mortar store that has also been there for a very long time. And I know that food trucks are the thing of the future, and I'm all for it. I think it's great, but it's got to be done the right way. One of the hot topics of discussion at probably 3 or 4 DDA meetings a year is the parking situation in the downtown. And I think that you can have the DDA all over you for this because they are adamant that they do not have enough parking in the downtown now. And if you take any more away from them, I think that I just think that we need to come up with an ordinance. Granted, we're behind the 8 ball on this, but I also think that Good Bites has some other options that haven't been presented or haven't been considered. They've been operating on private property now for a little over a year. There is a private parking lot immediately to the south of Bad Brewing, and they could enter into a contract with the property owner there, park in that parking lot right up next to the sidewalk, be on private property, do their business, and stay there for however long they contract with the private individual until such time as we get this ordinance in place. But I think that I just think that it's bad business for us to just arbitrarily say, okay, without having the proper protections in place. I mean, if you look in your packet and go through the stuff from Traverse City, you know, you're looking at it's a comprehensive document, and other than from what I can understand from reading the thing, other than if you park in a spot in Traverse City that has a meter, you can park there, but you got to feed the meter. And other than that, they're regulated to specific spots, parking lots, and not necessarily in the downtown area. So at this point, for a lot of reasons, I think that at this point I can't support this resolution. I just think it's bad business.
Thank you, Councilmember Clark. Additional comments?
Yes.
Councilmember Bruno.
To go along with what Leon has just said, also in the information we were given from the National League of Cities, there's many prohibitions there about parking within. In certain areas, the restrictions are as to how close you can go to an established business that's within the downtown area. And parking in front of the brewery would be, under what is there, is recommended way too close also. So even though you understand, I always say I'll support any resolution to get it on the floor for discussion, does not mean I'm going to vote in favor of it.
Thank you, Councilmember Bruno. Additional discussion? Councilmember Drosha.
A couple of things. Like I said, I think we do need to look at this and get a full ordinance in place. However, I think the time, that we're months away from that. So I think in this case we need to expedite and allow them the greater visibility because, first of all, with pretty much any of the brick and mortar places that we have in town, with the exception one I can think of, it's a different clientele altogether. They're on a different price point. It's gourmet food. So that doesn't seem to conflict with our current brick and mortar stores, with the one exception. And this 2-hour limit downtown has always bothered me. You may come shop in our town, but please only do it for 2 hours.
Take it up with the BDA.
I know, but falling on deaf ears there. So I'm a little frustrated with that. So everybody's going to vote the way they vote, but I'm going to vote in favor of this.
Thank you, Councilmember Drosha. Is there additional discussion?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Mulvaney.
Where are we at parliamentary? Have we moved to consider this read, or where are we at?
Sure. Normally we would move to consider a resolution as being read. However, Councilmember Drosha read the resolution into the record since it was not available for us to have in front of us, not available for each of us to have a copy. So it was read into the record and introduced by Councilmember Drosha. The resolution was seconded by Councilmember Bruno, and the discussion before the council at this time is regarding adoption of the resolution.
I have some further comments concerning then the resolution and the concept. I can congratulate the Good Bite people that have only in a year or so had a community fall in love with them, and I guess that's great. But also, congratulate John for wanting to move very quickly here and get something done to satisfy them. On the other hand, I have to say I could never vote for this type of resolve with no public hearing. I mean, we have people operating restaurants on our main street don't even know we're talking about this tonight. Before we can even begin to consider this thing got to go to the DDA. That's what we invested them for, was to overlook our downtown business, to react to things like this. This concept has not even been thrown out to them. I can't believe that they don't have some very, very strong reaction to it. And I've gotten a little of it so far today. And so I'm telling you, there's people out here that don't like this fast movement. And so slow up, gang. Slow up. The other thing about it is I have no assurance whatsoever that we got any of who's going to control this. Okay, we have a restaurant operating on a sidewalk. Well, you operate a restaurant in somebody's business, they're in charge of sweeping the floor and picking up the ketchup. Well, I just want to make darn sure that when I walk uptown to Best Sellers in the morning, I don't slip on the ketchup and break my back, And we don't have staff to do that. We don't have anybody to go up there every day and look over how things are. The other thing I want to say is we can't have something we got to have something if it's an ordinance. It's got to be non-discriminatory. I mean, you can't say, okay, we love you people, so you can do it. But the next guy comes in here and says, no, we don't like you for some crazy reason, And so whatever we have, it's got to be non-discriminatory. You can't say, okay, we'll allow you in front of this place, but we won't allow you in front of that place. This is, my friends, just plain poor policy. And this is what we're about, making good policy. You don't have to do it all in one night, Councilman Drosha. Secondly, the issue of parking is, believe me, very, very real in the downtown area. This food truck, according to my notes, is going to operate at least 3 days from noon until evening. I know that the businesses in those 2 blocks, that a parking place is a very special asset. It allows somebody to get parked out of the car, go in and make a quick purchase. I don't know if I may use an example. I got to pick up a picture tomorrow at Wheaton's frame shop, and I'll do that, but I won't just walk in there and look around if I can't find a parking space. Maybe I'll walk from down behind the jail if I have to get it because I want it. But we are eliminating a parking place that I would guess probably this city has at least $75,000 investment in. When we take the curb, the gutter, the sidewalk, the street, the land, we couldn't reproduce that any place in the downtown area for less than $75,000, I'm sure, and it might be more than that. At the same time, in the same meeting, I'm happy to hear that we're going to add new loft apartments in the same block. And I didn't ask the question, but the question is still there: where are they going to park? Because I don't see how. Well, maybe we're going to have to go to a parking garage, but that ain't going to happen just in a hurry. So, Mr. Drosha, appreciate your concern, your willingness to help these people. Slow up, send this thing to the DDA, send it to the Historical Commission. They've got a stake in it too. They've been trying to work to improve the downtown area to look like it did 100 years ago. They've made great strides. This ain't going to be one of them. Okay, hey, said enough. Like I've told you before, I don't have anybody to talk to at home, so I appreciate you guys listening to me.
Thank you, Councilmember Mulvaney. Any other comments? Since all the other council members have had a chance to chime in, I'd like to say just a few words. I, too, appreciate the business of Good Bites and the partnership that they have with Bad Brewing Company. I think it's an asset to our downtown, and I think that having a food truck in our city is a good thing. I think this is an example of where we have a business or a constituent or a individual that comes to us and says, I have an idea. Can we make it happen? And at this time, our laws don't match that idea. And so as a policy-making body, we are tasked with the responsibility of not only vetting that idea individually, but also saying, how can we make this work for the future, if indeed we want to make it work? And just listening to my colleagues tonight, I think that there is overall a positive vibe towards working on this issue, but not necessarily just approving it as a one-step process tonight. I agree with the comments of Councilmember Clark, Councilmember Bruno, Councilmember Ferris, and Councilmember Mulvaney. I think that, for one, I expected that we would either direct staff to begin working on an ordinance, and through that process we could weave in the Historic District Commission, which has a stake, the DDA, which has a stake, also the Planning Commission, which has a stake in this, and also bring Good Bites to the table, the Chamber, and other businesses that may have an interest, and really have a thoughtful, deliberative conversation about how we can actually make this work. And so I would, rather than voting down a resolution and sending the signal that we don't support Good Bites, which I personally do, I would hope that a council member may make a motion to table it so that we can then begin the serious work of having a real policy discussion. As a chair, I cannot make a motion, but I wanted to put my thoughts out there on the subject. Also, just as a matter of practicality, I appreciate the efforts of Councilmember Drosha in bringing forward a resolution, and as he read it, it's clearly some thought that's been placed into it, but I would much rather see a resolution included in our packet, something that's been run by the city attorney and had more than just a few minutes to look at it, and something that the public can digest, whether it's through just reading the packet or actually holding a public hearing before we vote on it. So I would like to see us push the pause button on the measure so that I would not have to vote in opposition, but if the council does wish to vote on final adoption of the resolution, I don't feel that I could support it at this time. Are there any other council members that would like to comment on the proposed resolution?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Clark.
A couple things. 2 or 3 years ago, we had a vendor that came to the Sundrive Music Festival. He'd been there for 2 or 3 years. Fell in love with the city of Mason and decided that he wanted to set up shop here, but he wanted to test the waters. So he took his food trailer and set it up up here on the hill on Mark Hildebrandt's property and ran it through the fall, and was very well received and wound up moving into a permanent location. He was there for a couple of years and decided that although his business was doing fairly well, he decided that he wanted to go on a different route, so he did leave town. So there is an example of how that can be done. My second comment is to your concern about, or your request to table this. I think it'd be a much cleaner, although maybe a little bit more distasteful, it's going to be a much cleaner process to vote on this and clear the table, start with a clear slate with, and if we do have a resolution, the resolution that comes back will be more comprehensive and more encompassing of what the results of any ordinance or that we may draft.
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember Clark. Any additional discussion? I do want to acknowledge, I saw Ms. Austin at the podium. We have allowed you a chance to speak at this point. However, the resolution's on the floor, and it's for the council's deliberation. So I didn't want to be rude, but I did want to explain that that at this time the council is deliberating on the resolution, and the time for the public input has expired, unless there's a council member that wants to override procedure at this time. Okay, thank you. I didn't want to come off as being rude.
That's okay.
So at this time, Resolution 2015-18 has been introduced and read into the record by Councilmember Drosha and seconded by Councilmember Bruno. We would move to final adoption. Is there any other discussion on the resolution before us? Hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of adopting Resolution 2015-18 to allow Good Bites Food Truck to enter into or to receive permission from the city to occupy the public right-of-way, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition to the resolution, please signify by saying no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes are in the majority. I believe Councilmember Drosha was the single affirmative vote. So in the opinion of the chair, the noes are in the affirmative, and the resolution has failed. I do thank Good Bites and Councilmember Drosha for a lively and constructive discussion tonight, and I believe it will be moving forward with this in a deliberative manner at a future point. Okay. Agenda item number 10, unfinished business. Councilmember Mulvaney, do you have any unfinished business?
None.
Councilmember Drosha?
None.
Councilmember Ferris?
None.
Councilmember Clark?
None.
Councilmember Bruno?
No.
Okay. I also have no unfinished business. Agenda item 11 is new business. Councilmember Bruno, do you have any new business?
No.
Councilmember Clark?
No.
Councilmember Ferris?
No.
Councilmember Drosha?
Yes, just a couple of items. First, I would like to make a motion to excuse Mayor Waltz from tonight's meeting as he's attending a family funeral.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded to excuse Mayor Waltz from tonight's city council meeting due to his attending a family funeral. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition say no. In the opinion of the chair, the motion, the ayes are in the majority, and the motion carries. Additional business, Councilmember Drosha?
Yes. In regard to what Ms. Vogel was talking about earlier today, I'm not exactly sure procedurally what needs to happen, but the trash receptacles get overfilled on a frequent basis, and it's been happening for a while. And I'd like to just, at some point, put it on the agenda to have a discussion of what needs to happen to not have the receptacles overflow. I don't know if that means we need to enforce the outside seating ordinance, which states, if I remember correctly, it came to Planning Commission when I sat on Planning Commission, that states that those businesses need to have their own receptacles and empty them. I'm not sure that's the best solution because it has been pointed out to me that the wind knocks those over frequently, and the ones we have out there are heavy and metal and don't tip over. Or is it that we need to emphasize having the DPW empty it every day, maybe twice a day during busy seasons? Or do we need to hire a part-time designated employee? I don't know the solution, but I'd like to, at some point, have that discussion and get that figured out quickly.
Is your request then that staff place this as a discussion item for our next meeting, or would you just?
Yes, please.
Okay. The request has been made. I believe staff has that, and we'll incorporate it into our next agenda. Do you have any additional new business, Councilmember Drosha?
I have none.
Great. Councilmember Mulvaney, any new business? Okay. I do have one item of new business. I appreciate the discussion that we've had concerning the Good Bites food truck. And prior to the meeting, I was able to have a discussion with City Administrator Colburn. And though city staff was not supportive of this specific request at this time, I believe city staff would be interested if, at the direction of the council, we urge them to look into some sort of food truck ordinance and or city policy. And so my request under new business is to ask city staff to begin the process of drafting an ordinance or city policy as appropriate to allow the appropriate use of food trucks in the public right-of-way. And I would hope that throughout the process of drafting such an ordinance or policy that we would include the Planning Commission, the Historic District Commission, the DDA, and have consultation with the particular petitioner, Ms. Austin, and Good Bites, as well as the Chamber. I believe that covers it. Mr. Colburn, is that suitable for a request for staff to begin the process?
Sure. I'm sorry. Surely. I know we've had a brief discussion on it and concur with all the vested stakeholders that it be a very open process.
Great. All right. That concludes new business. Agenda item number 12 is correspondence, and tonight's correspondence in your packet includes the monthly revenue and expenditure report, the quarterly investment report for the period ending March 31st, 2015, and the Arbor Day Foundation Tree City USA 2014 announcement and proclamation. Are there any questions or comments from council members regarding the correspondence in your packet? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move forward. Agenda item 13 is liaison reports. Traffic Commission, Councilmember Drosha.
We meet Wednesday this week, 5:30, right here.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilmember Drosha? Okay. Tree Commission, Councilmember Ferris.
In case you missed the earlier announcement, we have a Tree City honoree, Arbor Day honoree, Dennis O'Brien, who worked for the city for 30 years. And that is on Friday, the 24th of April at 12 noon at the Maple Grove Cemetery. It will be right inside the cemetery gates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody's invited.
Any questions for Councilmember Ferris? All right. Mayor Waltz was not able to submit a report on behalf of the DDA. Mr. Colburn, is there anything that you would care to add about the most recent DDA meeting or about forthcoming meetings?
It looks like a pretty busy agenda in which discussing and looking at moving forward with parking lot issues, bicycle racks, painting the historic-looking street lamps. There's actually quite a bit going on within the DDA. Some of that has to go to the board. Some of it doesn't, because some of it's in their budget. But we have a lot of activities going on right now that are involved with the DDA.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Colburn regarding the DDA? Okay. As the liaison to the Planning Commission, I have the following report to share. The Planning Commission met last Tuesday, April 14th, 2015, and we had a very busy agenda. We had two public hearings. Both were regarding the Dart Bank rezoning and special use permit right at 368 South Park Street. The first public hearing regarding the rezoning, the Planning Commission held the public hearing and subsequently adopted Resolution 2015-01, which recommended that the city adopt Ordinance Number 199. That was the item that we discussed earlier in tonight's meeting. The second was a public hearing for the same petitioner and same parcel regarding a special use permit, and the special use permit was specifically for the drive-through facility at the new bank. After the public hearing, which included several representatives, residents, and business owners in the surrounding area that had concerns and questions, but after that, the Planning Commission adopted Resolution 2015-02, which approves both the preliminary and final site plan and special use permit to construct a 29,000 square foot bank facility, including drive-through. And I believe, in addition to this, the Zoning Board of Appeals was considering a an alternative request waiver regarding the parking, and I'm not sure what the final outcome on that was. Mr. Colburn, do you happen to know?
Yes, that was approved so that they had an amended parking spot of 18 foot long and 9 foot wide.
So it looks like everything will be continuing to move forward with the new Dart Bank headquarters. I apologize, I did not bring the site plan with me tonight, but if anyone would like to see it, it is very thorough, very detailed. And during the public hearing, even though we asked a lot of questions, we did compliment Dart Bank on the comprehensiveness of their proposal, which was the reason for approving both a preliminary and final site plan at the same time. Under regular business, the Planning Commission received a report on the medical marijuana ordinance subcommittee activity. I will say, personally, I believe that what the council will receive in the near future is simply a request to extend the moratorium so the subcommittee can continue their work. They are working diligently, but time moves fast, and the legal landscape is continuing to change. So I wouldn't be surprised if we are presented with a recommendation to that effect. Other items that were on our agenda, just of note, Vevey Township's Planning Commission has issued a notice of intent to prepare a master plan, and so our planning and zoning official, as well as other city officials, will undoubtedly be involved in reviewing and participating in that process. And finally, Mr. Haywood acknowledged that the Hayhoe Riverwalk Trail pedestrian bridge bid specifications are actually due back to the zoning administrator on May 5th, 2015. And that was the extent of our Planning Commission meeting. Are there any questions about those items? Okay. Our agenda item 14 is council member reports. Are there any council members who would like to report on a conference or a meeting that they attended that is germane to the city council? Councilmember Ferris, did you? Oh. Okay. All right, I will just indicate that both Councilmember Ferris and myself, as well as Planning Commissioner Ann Barna, attended a placemaking workshop last week to receive a training from the MI Place Initiative, which is a consortium with Michigan State University Extension and also the Municipal League. And part of the output from that workshop was to construct a placemaking strategy, which I'm sure will be shared with both the Planning Commission and the City Council at a future date. Would you like to add anything to that?
I think that's pretty good.
Okay, thank you. Any additional council member reports? If not, agenda item number 15 is the City Administrator's report. Mr. Colburn, you have the floor.
Yes, I did communicate with the county controller in regard to the letter forwarded to the county on behalf of the city council in regard to the intent of acquiring Rainer Park, and also asked a very specific question as to where they were at with the survey. They have not ordered up the survey, but they're very aware. They were sending it to their Parks Commission meeting tonight, part of their planning process, to inform them of that. So they are going through their steps and stages of different bodies in which they work with the Parks and Rec Commission. Also, I just wanted to point out in terms of the special election on May 5th, the Mason City Council meeting on May 4th was canceled, but we do have a budget workshop for May 6th, currently at 7:30 p.m., to address the public hearing for fiscal year 2015-16. Then we're expecting the formal approvals to take place no later than May 18th as required by law. That's our next, the following council meeting. We also have, in regard to a budget workshop tomorrow night, here at 6:30 p.m. That's been posted. Just as a reminder, I want to make sure that you're aware of that. Also, I just checked and found that I had a message from Standards & Poor tonight. They forwarded a message to me, and we have received a rating of AA-, which is a very good rating, considered stable for the general obligation bonds, limited tax. And this is something that myself and Mr. Smith have been working diligently on. And so we've gotten now, officially as of tonight, to the next step. We'll be looking at going out here in coming weeks in terms of actually seeing what they come in with in terms of the interest rates and such. So there's some more communication that has to go on. but the bottom line is we're on track. We've been putting some time and resources towards that, and we're proceeding post haste.
Thank you, Mr. Colburn. Any questions or comments regarding the city administrator's report? I have one just regarding the budget workshop for tomorrow evening. Will that all be held in the council chambers with the live streaming available as well?
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, that is the last item on our agenda tonight. Council members, is there anything else that should properly come before the council tonight? If not, I thank you for your time this evening, and we stand adjourned.